the next phase, I think, will be $10 and $20 moves, per day, whenever. And then after that, it's game over. You'll wake up one day and all of a sudden it's risen $100 or $200 because it's just gone beyond anyone's control. And with all the energy that's been suppressing silver for so long, that spring it will be released, and the energy in that's going to be immense. So I keep telling people over the years, nothing would surprise me what silver does. I'll be grinning a lot when it jumps up $5 and $10 a day, and then 20, $30 a day, and then $100 a day and whatnot. But that is potentially around the corner. And so I would be, if you have positions left to get, I would get them.
Market analyst and metals expert Andrew Sleigh shares his bold outlook on the coming phase of the silver market, a stage he believes could redefine the entire precious metals landscape. As global pressures and years of price suppression reach their limit, he predicts we'll soon see silver moving in dramatic daily surges. $10, $20, or even $100 in a single session. The long-built tension, he explains, is like a spring ready to snap, releasing immense upward energy once control is lost. For those still waiting on the sidelines, this might be the moment to secure positions before the real breakout begins. Don't miss more insights like this. Subscribe for the latest updates on gold, silver, and market trends.
They're going to do everything they can to keep the market going up in the stock market. So they're going to stand on their head. They're going to do everything possible to keep that charade going as long as possible. So that's going to be QE, to huge numbers. And that's what, in my opinion, that's what gold is telling us what's coming. You're going to see another rate cut, and they'll continue doing that. And they're going to do QE on yield curve control. And gold is telling us that they're already money printing galore. And I would go so far as to say that gold's telling us that the system is on the way out. The dollar is in its last legs. And even though they plan to go to a stablecoin digital version of the dollar backed by nothing, back in another nothing, which is interesting to me. That will be just another charade to kick the can down another year or two with mega printing in a digital way. And then we also have to look forward to, will the U.S. government revalue gold for October or November, whenever they do it? We don't know. But, are they going to do this? Let me correct myself. It's not a revaluing of gold. It's revaluing the currency, but they don't want to say it that way. So you can't revalue gold. You devalue the currency, which is going to make gold go to their estimated limit of 13 to 30 grand an ounce US, which has been projected by a few analysts. So if that occurs, because they're painted themselves into a box, that's going to be completely uncharted territory to kind of interpret what's going to happen from there. There's a lot of distraction in the world by design with commotion and rioting and regional conflicts, which all are indicative of these empires and systems that come to the end of their legs, and it always ends in lots of violence to cover up the government and banking shenanigans of inflating the currency to nothing, which steals everyone's purchasing power and impoverishes a generation or two. This is the same playbook they've used every single time. So it's nothing new to me once you understand history on it. It's going to be catching the vast majority of people which do not understand what's happening. They don't understand what inflation really is. They don't understand that they're being robbed every day with printing of money, and their currency goes down in value. And they need to open up their eyes and ears and start doing something about it, because they don't want to be a statistic of the people that in history have lost all their value. I think that the shorting is starting to wane on particularly silver and gold. And of course, gold is the bellwether to indicate that currencies are failing. So it's doing its job. So it's going to go up and up and up because the currencies are continuing to fail big time and will speed up at some point. On silver, the last couple of days, there's been some rumors and a few articles about shortages around the world. And I just had a chance to kind of dig into it a little bit this morning with some, pretty high credible people that are looking around. And there are some things there that are going on. Here in Canada, I've been talking about this for a bit, but the Canadian Mint has had on and off again availability of 100-ounce RCM silver bars. So not available for 3-4 months. Then there's a month or two that we can buy them, and then another 3-4 months not available. And like that's never happened before. Like to my knowledge in the last number of years. So it's abnormal. 10-ounce RCM bars not available the entire year. We couldn't get them. Nobody could get them. All done. Now, I don't know what that's an indication of. Is it less supply coming into the mint, like say 1,000-ounce bars? There's not as much coming in, and so if the mint has the obligation to make the RCM silver maple coin, and they don't have enough raw material coming in, so they have to start saying, okay, well, we'll cut off on 10-ounce bars or intermittently stop the 100-ounce bars to maintain the silver coins. Is that's what's happening? Like they won't say. It's just nothing more than a guess on our part. And also, kilo bars of gold haven't been available the entire year to the retail market. Our suspicions are that the COMEX is buying whatever's available directly from the mint. I believe it's from July to August. The bullion banks, with their short contracts on silver, decreased their amount by 50%. And that's a massive decline in his words, because that's just, they're throwing away half of the ammo they have to try and suppress silver. Now, is that because they know the game is coming to an end, and if they don't start getting out of their positions, the silver train's going to run them over? And so they're trying to get out of Dodge, starting a couple months ago. And then I saw something the other day that was short contracts on the COMEX. I think available for shorting was 10,000 units, and it was sold out in an hour. So there was nothing left for anyone to short. So, and I don't fully understand the mechanics behind that. I'm not in that realm, but that seems to me to be the firepower to control silver downward seems to be waning considerably. And that could spell, excitement for the physical world.
In a powerful breakdown of today's financial turbulence, Andrew Sleigh sheds light on how global markets are reaching their limits. He warns that the system is being propped up by endless money printing, disguised as stimulus and yield curve control. Gold, he says, is signaling that the dollar is in its final stages, and what comes next could reshape everything. Sleigh points to abnormal silver shortages, from the Canadian Mint halting bar production to COMEX short positions being cut in half. These are early signs, he explains, that the suppression of precious metals is weakening. As major institutions scramble to maintain control, he believes the physical market could soon take the lead, with silver and gold surging far beyond expectations. The message is clear. History is repeating, currencies are faltering, and awareness is the only defense. Let's get into the interview.
The American dollar has lost 99.34% of its purchasing power. So that means, if my math is correct, and I change that to a fraction, that's 6.66 tenths of a penny is now what the US dollar's purchasing power is. And, or in other words, 7 tenths if you want to round up. So 7 tenths of a penny. Now, interestingly enough, at the time, if you go back to 1930 odd, when the American dollar and gold was, they revalued gold after they did that confiscation stuff at basically $35, give or take. You take that number and you go to roughly a month and a half ago, more or less, when this report had come out. Gold was 3,500 and change US. How many times does 35 go into 3,500? So it correlates. So I'm going to go on record as saying I agree with his math because up 100 times is pretty close to 99 and 7/10, and from here it only gets thinner. So it's never going to go negative. It's going to go, you know, in a year it might be 1/20th of a penny, and then it might be 1/200th of a penny and 1,000th of a penny. It's going to keep on adding zeros to its fraction, and and it was a little startling to me when I first saw it because the last number I heard from the U.S. was 2 cents, something like that, and I hadn't heard anyone doing any math on it for a couple of years until just the other month, and then I'm like thinking about the gold, and of course that's conversion to US dollars, and if it's 35 to 3,500, well, that correlates. So I'm like, it must be very close. And then I thought, okay, if the US dollar is 7/10 of a cent, the Canadian dollar is 6/10 of a cent, something like that. And nobody's talked about that for a couple of years either. So I think we are entering in that start of that curve where we start going exponential here in the very near future, whatever that is, a month or two, or longer than that. I don't know, but it's gold is showing us what's coming. It's not going to stop because they're printing money into oblivion, and so I don't see a pullback. I'm not saying it can't be pulled back a couple $100 when some event happens where people's margin calls and whatever, and they have a short amount of gold on the market, whatever. But that's nothing. That's just that's just a daily blip. But after that, it's right back, and it's going to roar forward and do more all-time highs, and it's not going to stop. When you have unemployment, well, they're going to do dollar printing like crazy, so they have to, and that's going to explode gold and silver even further to a degree that would be normal in Venezuela or Argentina, but it's completely foreign to the rest of the West. Like Europe and North America, we've not really gone through this kind of hyperinflation that's coming our way. But people want to have an idea, just start doing some research with Venezuela and Argentina, and you'll get a preview of what's coming. And so every time they do a new budget bill, it's many trillions of dollars. They're going to be the Canadian government's doing the same thing. There's just, Europe is wanting to get into a conflict in Ukraine and expand the war. I mean, the countries are all broke. Why do you want to expand the war? Because they need to print more money. They need a major distraction. So all of this is going to be massively, massively inflationary, which comes right back to the dollar, whatever currency you're in, whatever country, that's going to be destroyed. And if you think gold is high at 4,000 US, that's just today's numbers. I mean, once the inflation continues to pick up pace, you'll see an exponential increase in gold in dollar terms or whatever currency you're in. So with Venezuela, I tracked that for years. January 2018, it was $684 of their currency, the sovereign bolivar, and 6 months later, it was 90,000 for the same ounce of silver. And then 2 years after that, July 2020, it was 5.9 million. And it just kept going higher. It was in the hundreds of millions in a 4 or 5 year period for 1 ounce of silver. And that's not because the silver still bought 1 month's worth of food, roughly. But the currency, disintegrated that fast because of the money printing. So people should be just taking a look at some of those countries, and that will help you understand what's coming. I think, in my opinion, that with the momentum and the energy behind silver, this could be, it's going to be very hard for them to bring this down. I mean, they're going to fight trying to get it back down below 50, but it's going to be just possibly a week battle or a 2 week battle of it goes up to 51, it goes down a little bit, and they struggle it back down to 49 and change over a couple of days, whatever. But it's sooner or later, it's going to pop above 50 and hold. And when it does hold, I think the air is pretty thin up here, and the resistance is going to be pretty minimal after that. And then I would just advise people, before the boat leaves the dock, you may want to buy whatever else that you want to buy, because I'm, in my opinion, what I think is going to occur is, we've seen this dollar and a half swings quite a bit, and quite a few days like that during the week. So you can see, just in the last 4 or 5 weeks, that silver in Canadian dollars has gone up like 15, $16 an ounce, which is fantastic in the last in that period of time. So I think we're going to start the next phase. Whenever that starts, will be like a 10% move, $4 and $5 US spot per day, up, down, half of it down, whatever it is. You'll start seeing that.
In a sobering reflection on today's economic landscape, Andrew Sleigh explains how the US dollar has quietly eroded to less than a penny of its original value. He warns that the world is entering an exponential phase of currency decay, fueled by relentless money printing and global instability. Comparing the current trajectory to Venezuela's and Argentina's hyperinflation, he believes gold and silver are signaling what's coming: a rapid, unstoppable revaluation of real assets. Once silver breaks above key resistance levels, he suggests, the surge could be fierce and lasting. The time to prepare, he says, is before the momentum becomes unstoppable. Stay informed. Like, share, and subscribe for more insights.